Hey, it's Pete. I try not to jump in with a take on everything or comment on everything we see in the news of the day, but what we learned about today is truly incredible. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, the Vice President of the United States, and other very senior, very powerful Trump White House officials, it turns out, discussed highly classified war plans, not only on an unclassified channel, but accidentally and randomly, it seems, including a journalist. And to see this administration claiming that it cares about competence and merit, and then be responsible for an epic fuck-up like this, demonstrates that these are not serious people. I was an intelligence officer for about 7 years in the U.S. Navy Reserve, and I occasionally handled highly classified information during my time in the cabinet as well. It can be hard to explain just how much goes into keeping that information safe. It is only available to people with a security clearance and a need to know. It's only discussed in certain facilities that are hardened to make sure that they don't have the same vulnerability to surveillance as most places. And importantly, you only ever use classified systems to discuss classified information. So America needs answers on why an unclassified, commercially available app was used, and even more importantly, how some of the most powerful people in this country didn't know that they accidentally included a journalist while they were discussing classified war plans that they had yet to authorize and execute. This is not something that's just important for its own sake. I know Americans who lost their lives because of intelligence failures. This kind of intelligence failure calls the question on whether there is any place for merit or competence in this administration at all. Because if there are not highly serious consequences for this level of screw up, then it will make clear that all of the bluster about merit that you hear about from this White House is just bullshit. We deserve so much better than this. It is getting clearer by the day that the people in charge of the American government cannot keep the American people safe. Got to do better.
When you get Pete Buttigieg, probably the most measured person in Democratic politics, to say that what happened today was a, quote, epic fuck-up, really does go to show how much of a disaster the Trump cabinet has gotten itself into. And what's somehow even worse than the scandal itself, wherein Hegseth joined a raft of top administration officials, including Rubio, Vance, Gabbard, Walz, and Radcliffe, in gaming out their war plans on an unsecured texting app with a journalist watching it unfold, is how they're responding to it right now. This is Pete Hegseth today after being confronted with his own actions.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details?
Hegseth's bright idea is to outright deny that the group chat even existed. He is literally suggesting that this is all a hoax, which might carry some weight if it wasn't for two tiny things. First, the administration already confirmed its authenticity. And second, the thing that they were discussing in the group chat, the bombing of the Houthis, literally happened. But hey, other than those two pesky details of knowing the war plan that turned out to be true and also his own White House acknowledging that it's real, Hegseth is doing great. No notes, Pete. No notes. And clearly, Hegseth's obfuscation attempt isn't exactly landing too well. Even Fox's chief political analyst, Brit Hume, lashed out, writing, "Oh, for God's sakes, the administration has already confirmed the authenticity of the message." Even Goldberg himself, the journalist in question, clapped back at Hegseth on national TV.
Nobody was texting war plans. Given you were privy to this group chat, is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential, too technical, and I worry, honestly, that sharing that kind of information in public could endanger American military personnel. But no, they were plans for the attack. They were texted before the attack.
And there were things texted that you viewed as so sensitive, you did not even publish them in your report today.
I made the decision that the technical aspects of this, including what kinds of weapons packages, the attack sequencing, and so on, that's not necessarily in the public interest. What's in the public interest is that they were running a war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation. I mean, it's an obvious, ridiculous security breach. And, you know, he if you notice, he didn't actually answer the question.
But his attempt at a denial also stood out to me because no one that I talked to at the White House today argued this or tried to say these were, you know, misconstrued or altered or this is not real. I mean, the National Security Council confirmed the veracity of it.
The National Security Council, I asked various officials, including Pete Hegseth this morning, for comment. And the first question I had for everyone, is this real? I wanted to make sure, obviously, before we go public, and say, are you sure that this is not a disinformation campaign run by a foreign state, a non-state actor of some sort, trying to target a journalist for reasons I couldn't explain? And they're like, no, this is apparently a real channel. And I appreciate them telling the truth about that. And we published.
And yet still Hegseth is obstinately claiming that the whole thing is just fake news. Sound familiar? You're starting to see the tact that these grown-ass babies employ, wherein no matter what happens, they just stomp their feet and refuse to live in any semblance of a shared reality if that reality is politically inconvenient for them. Trump lost the 2020 election? Nope, it was stolen by the deep state in conjunction with Hugo Chavez, who already died and yet used fake ballots with Chinese bamboo fibers to rig the entire race. And now that they have all of these election-stealing technologies in hand, the Democrats used it by losing the very next election in 2024. Yeah, all of that makes total sense and isn't just the baseless bitching and moaning of a group of toddlers with security clearances. In fact, it's not only their unwillingness to accept reality, it is also the glaring hypocrisy of these people who just years ago clutched their pearls so hard over Hillary Clinton's email server that they likely needed a full month of smelling salts just to get up from the fainting couch. And in case you don't remember what that looked like, here's a reminder.
If there was anyone other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Nobody is above the law, not even Hillary Clinton, even though she thinks she is.
Mishandling classified information is still a violation of the Espionage Act.
When you have the Clinton emails, on top of the fact that the sitting president of the United States admitted he had documents in his garage, they didn't prosecute, they didn't go after these folks.
Hillary Clinton responded tonight with this. You have got to be kidding me.
Republicans dined off of that story for the better part of a decade, and now they're banking on the asymmetry of our media ecosystem to be able to get away with it after only a few hours. The only way this story goes away is if we let it. I have no intention of letting that happen, and you shouldn't either. Before you go, first, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we're now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they're willing to cater to this White House. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a great way for me to be able to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's completely free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support my work. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.